Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is a review and most definitely a rant on the direct-to-video sequel, The Crow, Wicked Prayer. Now, this is one of those films that manages to find new lows. It's unbelievable how bad this movie is. This is one of those sequels that not only killed the franchise, but it killed the director's passion for filmmaking. I'm not kidding. So, speaking of the director, this film was directed by Mungia. And prior to The Crow, Wicked Prayer, he directed a film called Six String Samurai, which is honestly a pretty fun, independent science fiction, fantasy, action comedy hybrid. And in that film, he showed a lot of promise as a director. So that's why I think he was offered the job. And nowadays, he wishes that he turned the other cheek, didn't take the job, because he went through hell making this movie. And the reason why I know this is a friend of mine knows a guy who apparently was acquaintances or still is acquaintances with Lance. And according to my friend, Lance pretty much had his hands tied behind his back the entire time. He was told one thing when he initially was asked to direct the film, like he was able to do what he wanted to do, he was going to have carte blanche. But then once the camera started rolling and he started to turn in dailies, the producers got more and more involved, the studio got more and more involved, and as a result, he didn't even get final cut, and the film was completely taken away from him. And he just was fighting with these producers and these other studio guys throughout the entire production. It was a nightmare, and that's why I'm not going to be too hard on Lance. Initially, I was going to bash his direction with Sting's baseball bat because it really was that bad. But now that I know the truth behind everything, it not only makes more sense because I know that he's capable of solid direction in Six String Samurai. So I was always astonished by how awful the direction was in this film. And now I don't have the same questions because I know why the direction is as bad as it is, because the man had his heart ripped out. He wasn't able to put his heart into the film because he had no heart to begin with, because the producers ripped it out of his chest and ate it in front of him. So yeah, it's unbelievable. I just can't. It's crazy. Like the egos involved. Like, this is the fourth film in the franchise. What the fuck? Like, seriously. You have nothing to lose at this point by letting an independent filmmaker who has a lot of promise just run wild with it. Why get in his way? Why even hire him if you're not going to allow him to make the film he wants to make to begin with? But the direction that is present, it's a disaster. It's really bad. The action sequences, they are dull. They have no sense of excitement or thrills. The way that they're shot, they come across as overly choreographed and almost like a Broadway play in terms of how people are leaping all over the screen and doing dance moves. Any sequences are supposed to convey some serious extreme emotions because of the way that they are directed and the way that they are edited. Uh, the only emotion that they manage to provide the audience is disappointment and anger. because of how poorly executed they are. The best shots in this film have to do with the scenery. Establishing shots, sequences that really do put an emphasis on the beauty of the location for the shoot. But other than that, like, the direction is really quite bad. It's awful. But once again, I'm not going to blame Lance. He did what he could with people always in his ear and always up his ass. So I'm going to blame most of this film's faults on the screenplay, which Lance also is listed here, but from what I've been hearing, he didn't have much to do with it either. It's based on a book of the same name, and I've heard from fans of The Crow that the book is a lot better than the movie, but that's not saying much. It really isn't. This film is so shitty that a crow, an actual fucking crow, could type up whatever garbage comes to mind and it would be better than this script. That's how bad this screenplay is. I mean, even from the very beginning, it's a clusterfuck. It starts out with a text crawl that not only explains to the audience what the setting is, which I don't understand because, you could have done something differently. You could have a creative or more interesting way of showing the audience what your setting is. You don't have to literally spell it out to them like they're a bunch of fucking morons. But okay. So you have the text scroll that explains what the setting is, where things are taking place, and then it also has this vibe as if it's a allegory, or not really an allegory, but as if it's like a PSA for environmentalism. Like, this movie's going to be an not anti-environmentalism, but I mean, it's going to be an environmentalism movie. It's going to have this message of environmentalism, like it's Three Ninjas Knuckle Up or some shit like that. And other than that text crawl, it really isn't. So I don't understand why it was even there. And then you have the first 5 to 10 minutes, which have these random fucking characters that really don't have anything to do with the main character, because the main character, Johnny Cuervo, doesn't show up until like 15 minutes into the movie. And I guess you find out later that there is some relationship. The leader of the group, David Boreanaz's character, he was friends with Johnny Cuervo, but you figure that shit out later. So it just starts off right off the bat with these random fucking gang of villains, which you're just confused as to why the film is focusing on them so early. It'd be like if The Crow started out with the bad guys and you didn't really see anything involving Brandon Lee until like 15 minutes into the film. It'd be a little confusing. And if that isn't bad enough, it just is so poorly shot in terms of weird camera angles and just absolutely egregious editing with quick cuts where there shouldn't be any, too much slow-mo that add nothing to the scene, freeze frames. Like, there will be a sequence and then the shot will freeze and then you'll see the character's stats as if they're fucking G.I. Joes. This is what they're good at. This is their weaknesses. This is their strengths. This is what their mission is. Their name. You're like, what the fuck is this shit? This isn't the A-Team? Why are we doing this? And then when there's a fight scene, it's poorly choreographed because you have punches and kicks that don't even land. Like they're the 60s Batman show. You're half expecting something to pop up on the screen that says, BAM! Pow! Fuck you! Oh my god. And then you get introduced to your lead. And he's a fucking pussy. He's a wimp. He's a loser. Portrayed by Edward Furlong, Johnny Cuervo. And he's got this relationship with this Native American woman on this reservation. And there's a lot of people who are on the reservation who don't like the fact that he's dating her. So there's strife involving with that, which doesn't really go anywhere. Johnny Cuervo gets killed by Death, but not Death himself. David Boreanaz, his character, he likes to call himself Death, and his gang, and they also kill his girlfriend. And this script sucks so much dick when it comes to how it portrays the Crow. Because Johnny Cuervo is not a likable character, for one. He comes across as more of an asshole than anything else, or a little prick. And then when he becomes the Crow, he's all like, I don't want to be the Crow. I don't want to do this, man. Like, who the fuck wants to watch a Crow movie where the Crow is like, I don't want to be a hero. I don't want to have supernatural powers. It doesn't help matters either that when he does fight, because they made the massive mistake and error in judgment with casting Edward Furlong as your action hero, as your lead, the fight scenes are beyond lame. There's all these quick cuts and all this other shit to try to hide the fact that Edward Furlong can't fight. And then you have other scenes where he just gets his ass kicked. He just gets spanked. Like a fucking baby. And that's supposed to be exciting? That's supposed to be entertaining? And most of the runtime, most of the narrative is delegated to these fucking villains who think they're the four horsemen of the apocalypse. You've got Death, played by David Boreanaz. You've got War, played by Marcus Chong. You've got Famine, played by Tito Ortiz from UFC. You've got Pestilence, played by Yuji Okumoto. You have Tara Reid, who plays Lola, who's the girlfriend of David Boreanaz's character. And she's like a shaman, and she's got magic powers. Yeah, because that's exactly what the Crow franchise needed, too. A bunch of spiritual mumbo-jumbo bullshit. She, like, does some spell where she steals Johnny's girlfriend's eyes, and that enables her to be able to see through people or read people's minds or some shit, and it ties in with this plot about how Tara Reid and David Boreanaz are going to get married, and then if they do it in a certain way at a certain time, the spirit of Satan will possess David Boreanaz. I'm like, fuck Satan? We got the devil now. We got Satan wedding. We got all this. What the fuck does this have to do with the Crow? Like, why is this even here? You don't need to make things more complicated and goofy and silly with this stupid Satanist shit. Then you have Dennis Hopper, who plays this pimp named El Nino, who Tara Reid's character used to work for. And oh my god, Dennis Hopper, his performance is so bad in this film that every time someone watches his scenes, his corpse rolls around in his grave. Because it is just absolutely atrocious and embarrassing. It's so embarrassing to see an actor of the caliber of Dennis Hopper say these fucking lines and speak in Ebonics or whatever the fuck. It's just wrong. So yeah, you have a hero who doesn't want to be a hero, who's a sad sack, who sucks, all kinds of dick. Then you have a villain who is laughable. David Boreanaz is a capable actor, and he does have charisma, but so much of it is misplaced here in the wrong places, and I just don't buy him as an intimidating presence, as a villain. Why wasn't he cast as the hero? I don't understand. He was Angel. Why are you casting him as the bad guy? It doesn't work. When he's trying to be tough, you don't buy it. And then when he's possessed by Satan, he does the worst impression of Jim Carrey that I've ever seen in my fucking life. It's his whole sequence when he's possessed by the devil is a try not to cringe challenge. I flub my words there because just thinking about David Boreanaz's scenes when he's possessed almost gives me an aneurysm. Like I can't. I hated those scenes so much. They were so hard to watch. He's hamming it up, and it's not enjoyable in the slightest because it's just cringe with a capital C. And supporting cast isn't much better because all the villains, they still suck. They're not intimidating. They're not cool. They don't do anything that really registers on the awesome scale. Performances aren't anything that impressive. Tara Reid is just eye candy, as usual. Don't buy her as a sniper. Don't buy her as this magic mistress. Marcus Chong, I guess, is maybe the only guy in the cast who's kind of trying, but doesn't have much to do. Tito Ortiz can't fucking act. He should have just stuck to UFC. Yuji Okumoto. Dennis Hopper. I don't even want... Dennis, may you rest in peace, but you know that scene in Waterworld where he's like, it looks like shit. That's really how you can describe his performance in this movie. It's shit. And you have Danny Trejo, who dances around a fucking crow with his shirt off. God. The music, it's not marvelous. It's not pleasing to the ear. The composer, Jamie Christopherson, he just sounds like he's doing a poor man's score for a Western, like Ennio Morricone or something, for Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It doesn't work. It I don't understand why he scored this film as if it were a Western from the 60s or the 50s. Since when was the Crow franchise a Western franchise? The editing by Dean Holland, massive fucking fail. I hate how this film is edited with its shaky cam and its quick cuts and its slow-mo scenes and its freeze frames. All it does is just give me a splitting headache. Cinematography by Kurt Brabby, drab, completely unremarkable. The film's like 99 minutes, but it feels like 199, where every minute of this film is like your whole body is being dipped into a fucking fryer. This film not only clipped the franchise's wings, but baked them, fried them, and shoved them up people's asses. Because it's just a really uncomfortable experience to sit down and watch this movie. Because it just is such a epic fucking fail on every level. Directing, writing, because the narrative is not compelling in the slightest. You don't care whether or not Johnny Cuervo gets his revenge because he's not someone that you root for, and he's not someone that does anything that's badass either. When he beats David Boreanaz while he's possessed by Satan, it's fucking ludicrous. You don't believe it at all. It doesn't help either that the makeup and everything, when they put it on Edward Furlong, he looks like a 12-year-old goth girl who's fucking cosplaying as the Crow for Comic-Con. And speaking of Edward Furlong, this isn't one of the worst performances. He does what he can with the absolute diarrhea that he has to work with. But he was just miscast. This is one of the biggest cases of miscasting I've ever seen. Edward Furlong had no business being anywhere near the role of the Crow. Especially when he looks scrawny in the makeup and in the jacket. And he does. He looks like a 12-year-old goth girl. So you have pathetic hero. I mean, you have a pathetic hero, you have pathetic villains, which equals a pathetic climax and pathetic final fight, because you don't buy any of them as any kind of match for one another, and you also don't give a fuck. This is like if a crow flew in the air, and then as soon as it got like 2 minutes into the sky, it died and then fell into a pile of shit. It's boring. It's lackluster. It's lame. It's crappy. It's just one of those films that nothing about it works. From the action to the narrative to the characters to the performances, to all the technical aspects. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say about The Crow Wicked Prayer. I mean, there isn't much at all to say, because there isn't much here. Except varying levels and degrees of shit, garbage, piss, puke. You name it. Everything that stinks under the sun is represented in The Crow Wicked Prayer. So, yeah, that's my review, my rant on The Crow Wicked Prayer. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, I will see you later. See ya.